liberal candidate in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, Janet Protasiewicz, I hope I'm saying her name correctly, has won. And this is just incredibly exciting because Protasiewicz now, with her victory over a conservative former Justice Dan Kelly, who's an election denier and was backed by anti-abortion groups, that flips the state Supreme Court for the first time since 2008. And there are a lot of things that the Supreme Court can rule over, which includes abortion in the state. There's a 19th century abortion ban that is at issue right now that the state Supreme Court could essentially nullify and codify the right to abortion in the state of Wisconsin. It literally passed a year after Wisconsin became a state, and Republicans in Wisconsin are trying to make it into the law of the land, law of the state. But also just the incredibly aggressive right-wing gerrymandering district lines that have cemented a disproportionate Republican takeover of the state government. And it's just been years and years and years of activism and organizing to attempt to claw that back. Because even though the state really is much bluer than the state government would indicate because of how gerrymandered it is, it's difficult to overcome that, because you need a lot of money, you need a lot of resources, and you need a lot of turnout. And for Protasiewicz, apparently the turnout was so significant for her, not just in Madison and Milwaukee, which are liberal areas of the state, but she also made gains that were surprising in some of the state's smaller cities and in rural areas of the state, which wasn't necessarily expected. So here is Protasiewicz after winning the special election for the state Supreme Court at her victory party, speaking about the meaning, the importance behind her win.
So finally, to the people of this beautiful state of Wisconsin, I thank you. Today's results mean two very important and special things. Yes. First, it means that Wisconsin voters have made their voices heard. Yes. Yes. They've chosen to reject partisan extremism in this state. And second, it means our democracy will always prevail. Too many have tried to overturn the will of the people. Yep. Today's results show that Wisconsinites believe in democracy and the democratic process. Yeah.
Well, most Wisconsinites, not her opponent, who she defeated, we'll get to that in a sec, but it's incredible, because this means that Wisconsin, hopefully, if they move quickly, can redraw their district lines. They have the very gerrymandered Republican tilted ones for the 2024 national election. But also on the state level, this means great things going forward, hopefully, for the state, because there was one small frustrating setback where in State Senate District 8, in a close election, it looks like the Republicans going to take it, and that gives the state Senate the ability to impeach the Democratic governor for God knows what reason. Is it Ewers or Ewers? Evers. Gosh, again.
Quinn Ewers, Tony Evers.
This is my slow turn into Sam, right? But anyway, despite the fact that she, as of this morning, leads by 11%, with 95% counted, her opponent refuses to concede. This is Republican Daniel Kelly speaking about the results, and he is clearly not taking this loss, even though it's incredibly decisive, not taking this loss well.
and it brings me no joy to say this. I wish that in a circumstance like this, I would be able to concede to a worthy opponent. But I do not have a worthy opponent to which I can concede. This was the most deeply deceitful, dishonorable, despicable campaign I have ever seen run for the courts. It was truly beneath contempt.
Cry more.
Now, I say this not because we did not prevail. I do not say this because of the rancid slanders that were launched against me, although that was bad enough. But that is not my concern. My concern is the damage done to the institution of the courts.
Yes.
My opponent is a serial liar.
Yes.
She's disregarded judicial ethics.
Yes.
She's demeaned the judiciary with her behavior. And this is the future that we have to look forward to in Wisconsin. I've been committed to the rule of law my entire career. I understand this to be the most fundamental, basic promise of civilization. And in its heart, it lives in the judiciary, and if not there, nowhere at all. We've had this laid out plainly for us. We could have the rule of law or the rule of Janet. And the people of Wisconsin have chosen the rule of Janet.
Dude, I don't think that's like the scary proposition that you think it is. It's not like the rule of Thanos.
A reverse Handmaid's Tale
Yeah.
going on. He's like, I am a marginalized man, and the rule of Janet is here, and it is permanent. I am going to walk into the ocean now.
Bye-bye. See you later.
This crybaby loser, by the way, Daniel Kelly, just from his Wikipedia page, it's never good when you have a subsection that reads involvement in Stop the Steal movement. Kelly was paid $120,000 by the Wisconsin State Republican Party and the Republican National Committee as an attorney who worked on election issues in 2020 after his term with the Wisconsin Supreme Court ended because he was a former justice. In the weeks following the 2020 presidential election, he provided legal counsel to the Wisconsin GOP to overturn the 2020 election. Oh, this guy is the one who's so committed to the rule of law and to the judiciary and being wanting so badly to have a solemn and contrite concession, but he can't because Janet is so mean. Janet's so nasty, and the silly Wisconsin voters now just want the rule of Janet.
The rule of Janet. We're all living in Janet's world now, baby.
It sounds like a CBS sitcom, The Rule of Janet.
I know.
It's like, now Janet's here to stay.
Exactly.
The Rule of Janet. We're coming to you live at 8 p.m.
Janet, the nanny, who's a little no nonsense.
And she makes Daniel mad.
And the kids are just out of control, but now we have the rule of Janet in the house.
Forever.
Yeah, sorry. That's the reboot of The Nanny is the rule of Janet. I mean, like, it's just...
Cry more, buddy. Cry more, buddy.
Cry.
Seriously.
I mean, he wanted to make it sound like we were in some... God, I wish I had that soundboard. We could have played The Rose over it. But he wanted to make it sound like we were in some dystopian nightmare. Dude, the rule of the people is actually what put the rule of Janet in office. Yeah. You lost by 11 percentage points.
Yeah,
you can't
it wasn't
really
even
make this case.
It wasn't like a nail biter.
No.
Like you lost by like 8 p.m., buddy.
Yeah, it was over before it even started. Seemingly,
it wasn't because Janet was so oppressive. It's because you're a huge loser.
She should make T-shirts with like her face on it, a parental advisory thing in the bottom corner, and call it the rule of Janet. Honestly, that's just like a free idea for you, Janet, if you run for re-election, although that won't be for 10 years. I mean, that's a big part of why this is so massive is because she has a 10-year term. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court has been instrumental in not just making Wisconsin much more undemocratic, but in providing the blueprint for other states to do the same. We had John Nichols on yesterday who spoke about how Wisconsin is known as the laboratory of democracy, and there's a good reason for that. We'll talk later about what's happening in North Carolina, but they took a page from Wisconsin's gerrymandering almost immediately after they did so in 2010 in the backlash to Obama, which elected these ghouls like Scott Walker, who then ended up passing right to work laws, gerrymandering their states to the point where they could cement Republican rule even when demographic shifts and shifts towards more liberal politics were coming down the bend. I mean, that was the reason for it. North Carolina is honestly in a very similar position on that front. Also has a Democratic governor, but a heavily Republican legislature that is getting in the way of any progressive priorities. And so having this happen in Wisconsin is important for all the reasons we just said. Abortion, election integrity, and then hopefully once these maps are redrawn, then we can get to a point where Democrats take back the state government and there's a repeal of the right to work laws that undercut unions, because this Wisconsin really was ground zero for this mass anti-union state legislation across the country during that period of time. We're seeing it happen in Michigan, where it's being repealed because Democrats have taken back control of their government on the state level. This is a massive step for Wisconsin to do that in the coming years.
And just our intern Isaac texted me and pointed this out, that Dan Nodal, the guy who won that special election to preserve the supermajority in Wisconsin, he is open to the idea of impeaching state officials like Judge Janet and Tony Evers. Obviously, I'm not sure how exactly the critical mass is there for if all Wisconsin Republicans want to do it, but this just goes to show you how it's better to be in the position where these Republicans want to impeach her because she is in power, as opposed to losing outright and having no shot of a future for abortion rights and for democracy in Wisconsin.
And I'm not sure what the impeachment proceedings would entail.
Right, how that would even
I don't think
manifest
that's
itself.
Immediate expulsion, right? I mean, like, you just might get impeached. So, which it seems like they're trying to do this across the country, Republicans now. Yeah, you're going to go after Daddy Trump, we'll go after your Democrats.
We'll go after Janet.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, they tried to go after, scary Janet. In Pennsylvania, they tried this, or didn't they do this successfully? They impeached Larry Krasner.
Oh, yeah.
The state Senate did. Yeah, they did. Right. But they have a Democratic governor. So lots of, I think, similar situations happening across the country right now. And Republicans who made all these gains, again, in the post-Obama backlash to having a black president, are beginning to get a little scared that Democrats have organized effectively enough to fight back against some of this.